So I just caught wind that Dr. Gary Nolan, biologist, immunologist of Stanford University, stated that drafting language is being worked on to grant immunity, as I understand it, to people who are working in legacy UFO programs. Now, he stated this on Twitter, and he's a reliable person, so I would not ignore this public statement. Now, I'm just going to give you the tweets where he goes on the record for context, and then maybe we'll discuss it a little. So this is what preceded Gary Nolan saying what he said. Joe Mergia writes, Wilson Davis is just the start. Bringing the Wilson to testify is great, but that's not the end game. Mellon said Davis gave the intel committees enough to check out crash retrieval claims. If they find those programs, you get amnesty for the folks who work in them and go from there. Gary Nolan responds, use the term immunity, not amnesty. Amnesty is post-conviction. Immunity is to prevent indictment or arrest. Steve responds, I think the term for post-conviction is actually a pardon. Amnesty is immunity for an entire group, which Gary Nolan responds, amnesty can be post a conviction, retroactive pardon, or giving them a time frame to own up to an offense. Because it has a many meanings, you want a tighter definition. Immunity, as someone noted, is something Congress can grant up front, indicating there will be no charges. He continues, bottom line, people are working on the necessary language. It won't be a single magic word. Matthew Morris chimes in, are they really working on it? Like, that would be awesome and so encouraging if you would just respond yes. Gary Nolan responds, yes. So my takeaway from Gary Nolan's statement is that legislation is being worked out right now that would grant immunity to personnel currently working in secret UFO programs that have not come to light and may have indeed been around for quite a long time. In other words, if they are granted immunity, they can come forward and share information about UFO programs they are involved in and what they have discovered about UAP to the Congress. Without the threat of being prosecuted for any illegalities they may be responsible for. For example, for keeping their existence secret from congressional oversight committees. Interestingly, May 17th, we had the first UFO hearing in Congress in over half a century. And Representative Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin asked the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, Ronald Moultrie, and the Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, Scott Bray, if there were any UFO programs between Project Blue Book that closed in 1969 and ATIP that started in around 2008. He even asked if there were any programs prior to Project Blue Book. You know what? Let's take a look at that clip.
DoD had an initiative to study UFOs in the 1960s called Project Blue Book. It's also been well reported in our briefing and in other places that we have more recent projects, specifically ATIP. Could you describe any other initiatives that the DoD or DoD contractors have managed after Project Blue Book ended and prior to ATIP beginning? Did anything also predate Project Blue Book?
So I can't speak to what may have predated Project Blue Book. I mean, of course, there's Roswell and all these other things that people have talked about over the years. I'm familiar with Blue Book. I'm familiar with ATIP. I haven't seen other documented studies that have been done by DoD in that regard.
So you're not aware of anything in between Project Blue Book and ATIP?
I'm not aware of anything that's official that was done in between those two. Okay. Hasn't been brought to my attention.
Okay. Additionally, are you aware of any other DoD or DoD contract programs focused on UAPs from a technological engineering perspective? And by that I mean, are you aware of any technology initiatives focused on this topic other than initiatives focused on the individual case investigations?
I'm not aware of any contractual programs that are focused on anything related to this other than what we are doing in the Navy Task Force and what we are about to launch in terms of our effort.
Same question for you, Mr. Bray.
Same answer, not aware of anything outside what we are doing in the UAP task force.
So just to confirm, you're not aware of any technology or engineering resources that have been focused on these efforts besides what we've mentioned today?
Once again, I'll say no contractual or programmatic efforts that are involved. The reason why I qualify it that way, let me qualify it that way. I can't speak to what people may be looking at in the department. Somebody says, I'm looking at something that may be unidentified, and I can't speak to that. I speak to official programs that we have on the record.
But it gets even better. Yesterday on the podcast YouTube channel, Calling All Beings, Lou Elizondo was doing the last appearance on one of these podcasts for a very long time. And he said, with no caveats, there are other UFO programs and they will come to light. Let's take a look.
Great question. First of all, there are other programs and they will come to light. Great question. First of all, there are other programs and they will come to light.
Looks like this party is getting more and more interesting. 4.5 years later, it has escalated as I said it would. And I think this is the beginning of the end. Not the beginning of the beginning. We're not there yet. It's the beginning of the end. I have long assessed that there were and that there are other UFO programs operating within the United States government, funded by American tax dollars, withheld from much of the government, including congressional oversight committees, which is obviously very illegal as far as I understand. And granting immunity will facilitate them, the people involved in these programs, likely housed in aerospace companies, coming forward. And when and if this occurs, that's when we'll really get to learn about what the government knows about UAP. Is there a crash retrieval program, as so many have suspected, where materials have been recovered of non-human origin? Is there a biology program where biological specimens have been recovered and scientific studies into those specimens persist? Well, I don't really know. But, or are there programs that track UAP in space or coming in and out of the ocean? And we've heard stories about that from people like Ross Coulthart and the witnesses he has, as I understand it, gotten on the record. We may be in for quite a ride as we move forward, and more hearings to boot. It's UFO season. And we're going to cut this video short. That's quite the update, if I do say so myself. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You become a patron, you could become a YouTube member, or you could just even give me a one-time donation. All of those potentialities are in the description below, or you could just give me slap a like on this bad boy, and I would appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next disclosure episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.